Professor Baragwanath, you wrote the very important solfeggio tradition. How did it start for you?
It's all Bob's fault. I blame him. It was actually in the year 2007. I first met Bob in Freiburg. There was a conference there. It was a very important conference because I remember Bob's book on the Galant style had just come out, and there was a real buzz. Everyone was there to hear about these strange things called partimento. And at that time, I have to confess, I had never heard the word. I didn't know what a partimento was in 2007. And it was all very new to me. And I wasn't even a scholar in this field. I was in a completely different field. And it was Bob's book, which has a chapter on solfeggio. And I think Bob needs credit there for being the first modern scholar to actually take an interest in this topic. So Bob's chapter on, I think you call it do, re, mi, Bob. Is that right? And when I read that, and I became aware that there were thousands, 12,000 of these manuscripts all over the world. And no one had ever really studied them. No one had written about them. And then Bob came along and said, well, they had this different system. The semitone was always mi fa. And I thought, that's fundamental. That's absolutely, foundational to the study of this music, but no one talks about it. So thanks to Bob, I set myself the task of trying to explain what all these manuscripts did, how they were used, how they were taught, because actually nobody really knew. And there's still, I have to say, a lot of things we still don't know. And I spent the next sort of 10 years studying, and I have to confess that for about 7 or 8 of those years, I really couldn't crack this thing at all. I just was going nowhere. I just analyzed these things to death. I tried every possible approach, and I just couldn't break this. I just couldn't understand, the way these things worked and how they were used. And then sort of things started to fall into place, and I won't talk in detail about that, but just, it started to click. And then I realized a few things, and it all made sense. It's all Bob's fault, and he set me on a path for about 10 years of digging around archives all over the place, trying to find these sources, and plowing through difficult manuscripts and teaching myself all sorts of new skills. I blame him.